Good morning. On this beautiful sunny day, we begin our time together in song with Come Thou Fount of Every Blessing, words by Robert Robinson and Eugene Navius, music by John Wyeth. Please make sure your microphone is muted so you can just sing along as energetically as you like to welcome this new day we've received. Good morning and welcome to the Unitarian Universalist Congregation of Gwinnett. My name is Jan Taddeo. My pronouns are she, her, and hers, and it is my great joy and incredible privilege to serve our faith as the minister of this congregation. I am so glad to be back from a little vacation time, rested and renewed, and here together with you again. Welcome. If you have a chalice or candle at home to light in a few minutes, please make sure you have that ready as I offer these words of welcome. We arrive from many places and many life experiences as we gather in this cherished space to recall our true selves, reflect on the meaning of our lives, and explore questions of ultimacy together. We are people who are new to Unitarian Universalism and people who are lifelong Unitarian Universalists. We are people of many religious beliefs and spiritual practices. We affirm and promote the responsible search for truth and meaning. We are people of many genders and sexualities. We are people of many ethnicities, origins, ages, shapes, sizes, and expressions of our true selves. We affirm and promote the inherent worth and dignity of every person. We are people of all ages, family structures, and each bring gifts, talents, and passions that serve to affirm and promote communities with peace, liberty, and justice for all. We are people of covenant who engage with one another in ways that promote and affirm justice, equity, and compassion in human relations. We are people who care deeply for our planet and understand we are inextricably and profoundly connected with the web of all existence. We are people who welcome all who are seeking a community of faith that welcomes your whole self, all that you were, all that you are, all that you yearn to be. You are just where you should be, in a room full of compassionate and thoughtful Unitarian Universalists ready to meet you where you are. You are welcome here. You are home. If you are a newcomer this morning, we welcome you and hope you will indeed find your spiritual home here with us. We are becoming a radically welcoming sanctuary in a green space. We foster spiritual growth as we joyfully nurture connections and community within our walls and beyond. If this is your first time here with us, I encourage you to join us several times to experience the full flavor of this congregation and this faith tradition. Come and be curious, courageous, and compassionate with us. And now I invite everyone to take a really big, deep breath with me. And on the next breath, just bring your whole self, every molecule of your being, into this precious time we've set aside to be together. And now, as sound vibrates through us and around us, may it remind us how deeply, profoundly, inextricably interconnected we are with each other, with every person, every being, all life on this planet, and all the stars in the cosmos. Our call to worship this morning comes from Gretchen Haley, titled "Be Generous with Your Dreaming." Cast your vision here in the middle of the hardest moment, the turning of the new year, this life with so much worth saving, this fragile faith for the children born now into the world as it is, with the threat of war and whole continents burning still, while the memory lingers of holidays chaotic and miraculous into this day. Offer the vision you've tried to talk yourself down from, your wildest dream, your audacious aims, the beauty that whispers to you to follow and build and become. For this world coming undone by distraction and greed and fear, this world divided by made-up borders and fake fights and all that needs forgiveness, here, stir up your steadfast hope, your resolute clarity of what remains possible. Be generous with your dreaming and brave. All paths to the future are born in this courage of imagination, this willingness to shed, to salvage, to start again, to be this blessing for each other, to be this blessed. Come, let us worship together. Now, if you have your chalices ready, you can light them with me, and then I'll offer words from Scott Taylor. In the soft light of this flame, may our lives shimmer anew. May we notice new possibility in those relationships that seem lost. May the turning of the year give birth to a dream. May the emerging light pull a new story into view. May what is give way to what might be. May we believe again in the world we imagine. And now it's time to open our Wonder Box. If you're new to Unitarian Universalism, we are people who like to ask questions, and we're very curious. And so often we begin our service with the Wonder Box to see what might be there. Well, here's something that's going to sound very rattly to you probably, but these are my great story beads. And they tell the story of the history of the universe. And somewhere on this is a bead for humanity, the birth of humanity. And then there's these two little things. Whoop, whoop. Okay. That's an acorn. You can see it. Okay, a little acorn. I discovered I have a whole jar of acorns that I must have collected years and years ago, and I found it this morning. And this is a seed. Some of you might know what kind of seed that is. It is a sharp seed, I will tell you that. They're all over my yard and my sidewalk, and when I go out barefoot, which I do sometimes even in the winter, it hurts to step on them. But that is a tulip poplar seed. And this morning our story is about a different kind of seed. Our story is about the everything seed by Carol Martinaco. Have you ever watched a seed grow? Have you ever noticed how it begins so small, so still, so quiet, like a gift wanting to be opened, and how slowly it wakes up, begins to unfold, growing into something larger and larger and larger? Then you know that whatever comes from a seed usually ends up looking very little like the seed it came from, which is also true of the very first seed. Once, long, long, long ago, way back before the beginning, so long ago there was no such thing as time because there was no one there to count it. Everywhere was a huge, deep, mysterious place, like something waiting to happen. There were no stars, no sun, no moon. There was no place like Earth, not a drop of water or a single tree or rock or flower, no living beings anywhere. But in that deep, waiting space was hidden the tiniest point of something no bigger than a seed. It was not a flower seed. It was not an elm tree seed. It was not a seed of corn, although all those things were included in that little tiny seed. You might call it an everything seed, because that is what it became. No one knows where the first seed came from, or how it was planted, or how it knew, in the way that only seeds seem to know, how long to wait for just the right moment to sprout and grow. But all at once, this tiny seed, cradled and nourished in the rich soil of space, woke up, broke open, and began to unfold, unfolding, 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 and blossoming forth into an enormous blazing ball of bright light, like a great grandmother sun. And the universe was born. Out fluttered the galaxies, like a storm of snowflakes swirling and gathering into the brightest, most blindingly beautiful cloud of stars. And out of those star clouds whirled our own star, the one we call sun, our Earth, our moon, and all the round spinning planets we have learned how to name. And this is the secret of that tiny seed. You and I were there in the very beginning. Just as the idea for each leaf on a big oak tree lies hidden inside that acorn. We were there with all the stars and planets and all the rocks and oceans, plants and animals and all the people. Everything that is now, that ever was, that ever will be, was inside that first tiny seed. So, whenever you hold a seed in your hand and wonder what it could become, imagine how you and all that is here once came from the tiniest speck of an everything seed before it sprouted and grew long, long ago in the way back beginning of time. Now, if this were an ordinary story, it would end right there. But this story of the universe keeps unfolding. What once began in a blazing blossom of light continues every day. New stars sprout open in the deep soil of space. New plants and animals appear on the earth. Seeds of many kinds are scattered everywhere to help us remember. and new people are born every day, with the spark of that first light still alive and burning deep inside, waiting, like the everything seed, to shine in ways that are yet to be known. And I invite us to sing together hymn number 128, which you probably don't have hymnals there, but the name of it is For All That Is Our Life by Bruce Finlow and Patrick Rickey. Please join us in singing.
Good morning. It's good to be with you all. For more time than I can fathom, there were on this planet a number of human species. I knew about the Neanderthals through my own education, and because my 23andMe DNA test shows that I have a little Neanderthal DNA in me. If you're of European or West Asian descent, there's a good chance that you have a little Homo neanderthalensis in you too. But that's just the beginning. In his massive research entitled Sapiens, A Brief History of Humankind, Israeli scientist Yuval Noah Harari walks us through the discoveries of numerous other human species in addition to Homo sapiens and Homo neanderthalensis, including Homo denisova, Homo erectus, Homo ergaster, Homo florenziensis, and Homo rudolfensis. These other human species are the ones that have been found and named. Some of these human species have been in existence for over 2 million years. Our species, Homo sapiens, was here a little over 150,000 years ago, keeping to ourselves quietly in a little corner of Africa. There have been human beings of one species or another on this planet for over 2 million years. Can you imagine? Harari asks his readers to imagine some other things. Imagine how things might have turned out had the Neanderthals or the Denisovans survived alongside Homo sapiens. What kind of cultures, societies, and political structures would have emerged in a world where several different human species coexisted? How, for example, would religious faiths have unfolded? Would the book of Genesis have declared that Neanderthals descend from Adam and Eve? Would Jesus have died for the sins of Denisovans? And would the Quran have reserved seats in heaven for all the righteous humans, whatever their species? Would Neanderthals have been able to serve in the Roman legions or in the sprawling bureaucracy of Imperial China? Would the American Declaration of Independence hold as self-evident truth that all members of the genus Homo are created equal? Would Karl Marx have urged workers of all species to unite? Harari asks another haunting question. What is it about Homo sapiens that enabled us to survive beyond all of the others? One theory points to the amazing flexibility of our language ability. We can connect a limited number of sounds and signs to produce an infinite number of sentences, each with a distinct meaning. We can thereby ingest, store, and communicate a prodigious amount of information about the surrounding world. So consider this contrast. A green monkey can use language to warn, careful, lion, and that's powerful. A human being can tell her mates that she saw a lion near the river and that it has used two different paths to get there. The group of Homo sapiens listening to her can then discuss the best way to approach the lion, chase it away, and continue to hunt their bison. Another theory is called the gossip theory. It goes like this. In our unique ability at language is tied to our nature as social animals. Social cooperation is essential to our survival. It's not enough to know where the lion and the bison are. It's essential for survival to know who in the clan hates whom, who is sleeping with who is honest, and who's a cheat. Knowing and tracking this kind of relational behavior is a huge mental and linguistic feat. Being able to communicate who could and could not be trusted allowed Homo sapiens to form much larger bands of community than any other human species is known to have created. Today, in one fashion or another, our forms of email, social media, phone calls, newspaper, magazine articles are all forms of this kind of gossip. Both of these theories have some truth to contribute to understanding how it is that we are the lone survivors of the several species of humankind, but Harari thinks it's a third thing that really helps us understand ourselves. We have the ability not only to warn of a lion and create strategies, we not only are capable of gossip so that we know who to trust and who not to trust, we have the capacity to transmit information about things that do not exist at all. As far as we know, says Harari, only sapiens can talk about entire kinds of entities that they have never seen, touched, or smelled. Legends, myths, gods, and religions appeared for the first time with the cognitive revolution of Homo sapiens. In more recent times, Homo sapiens have, through the power of language and imagination, dreamed of some other things that never existed. The French called them liberté, égalité, fraternité, liberty, equality, fraternity. Some white men of European descent dreamed up these words. We hold these truths to be self-evident that all men are created equal, that they are endowed by their Creator with certain unalienable rights, that among these are life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness. But it doesn't stop there. A Black American man in the 1950s named Martin Luther King Jr. took those ideas and proclaimed out loud that they were not big enough. He imagined freedom ringing from, of all places, Stone Mountain of Georgia, for Black men and women and children, along with white women and children and men. Unless we think the gossip theory is a bad one, we just have to remember what that gossip did to King and Medgar Evers and Malcolm X, among many others who were deemed those not to be trusted. Rosa Parks had an imagination too of things that had not yet existed. All of these reflections on our capacity as human beings, the sole surviving species of human beings, to use language and our imagination to create our communities is no more self-evident than where we find ourselves right now. We are standing in a time when the human dignity of all shades of skin color are proclaimed. Black lives matter. Marriage equality is real. Children with disabilities have never been recognized and served in public schools better than they are now. We are about to inaugurate a woman of color as our vice president. And we have just lived through 4 years of a white supremacist as president. Millions of people in this country band around his racist ideas, wish to turn back marriage equality, undo a woman's right to choose, have participated in dismantling educational opportunities and protections, suppressed the vote for people of color and the poor and the elderly. Both of these stories are true of us right now, and not just in the United States. Both stories are products of our ability to use language and imagination with powerful consequences. As we come to the end of this particular presidency with all of its horrors, this is something hopeful and terribly sobering to keep in mind, in my opinion. January 20th will not make everything right, or even immediately better. In fact, the work to begin to right a ship in trouble may feel even worse for a while. I think we should expect it to feel worse. Much harm has been done to the story of human dignity, to freedom for all, and the social networks that support these ideas. But our species of humans, according to Harari and his research, has the capacity through language and imagination to transform all that we do and are within a decade or two. For me, this is why this community at UUCG and why our larger movement of Unitarian Universalism and the larger collection of communities of progressive peoples across religions, professions, and ideologies are so essential. We are using our language and our imaginations to create a place where anyone, everyone who seeks refuge, who seeks compassion, generosity, who is curious and who's willing to be courageous together is welcome. At the root of things, welcome. This community is calling things into being in the middle of Georgia, almost literally within sight of Martin Luther King's Stone Mountain, that were not long ago unheard of and non-existent. What to do when we encounter those who are not quite like us? The practiced default may be to consider not quite like us as frightening and to be avoided, shunned, or even attacked with violence. That's that gossip piece. But not quite like us could also be imagined as amazing. There's an activity that we use in language learning classes when someone makes a mistake, and we establish this as an agreement up front in the class. Whenever someone makes a mistake in speaking the new language, everyone immediately raises their hands up as if welcoming a wonderful gift and says together in the target language, "How amazing!" It never fails, laughter ensues, and then the conversation or the story or the reading goes on. It's especially wonderful when it's the teacher who makes the mistake. Such a drill invites human beings, through language, to imagine mistakes differently. Rather than something about which we should be ashamed or which we should try to hide or, if caught, to argue and become defensive about, through imagination, this drill reshapes a mistake into a gift. In reality, the thing is just a word. By one exercise of imagination, that word is a mistake. By another exercise of imagination, that word is a gift. So many questions we have at the beginning of 2021. In the face of much division and violence, does this require us to trust no one? Does this prevent us from holding individuals who break trust from some measure of compassion? Are there places where we simply cannot be generous at all? Or do we begin to imagine a community, a generosity, a compassion that can take off its blinders, level by level, and still maintain a humane community while struggling and dealing with the horrors that we face as well? In other words, Can we imagine a community based on a generosity and compassion that is infused with true knowing? That's what sapiens means, true knowing.
I am grateful to Bob for introducing this book, Sapiens, to me. When it arrived, being such a very large tome, I decided to just flip through it and see what was there. And I landed on a section in chapter 18 titled Imagined Communities. This seemed fitting as I find that my professional commitment and my personal yearnings come together in the idea of creating communities of care and compassion. I find it far more challenging than I ever imagined. And Harari offers some insights as to why this can be challenging. As Bob said, community is a critical part of the story of Homo sapiens. From our early tribal roots to today, we have always needed and yearned for one another, for protection, companionship, basic needs of survival, for the care of our children and our elders, and so much more. This section on imagined communities follows the section titled Collapse of the Family and Community. Since the Industrial Revolution, our core connections, the nuclear family, the extended family, and local intimate community have changed dramatically. As technology advanced, the role of nuclear family, extended families, and local community shifted, and in many ways shrank as the roles of the state and the market expanded. According to Harari, and I quote, "Markets and states provide tribal bonds by fostering imagined communities that contain millions of strangers and which are tailored to national and commercial needs. An imagined community is a community of people who don't really know each other, but imagine that they do. He offers examples of how this has been true for millennia, but before the Industrial Revolution, those imagined communities played second fiddle to the family and local communities. Today, the two most significant and imagined communities are the nation and the consumer tribes. Are you a fan of hip hop, jazz, or classical music? Do you live in the United States or Canada, Georgia, Colorado, or Alaska? Whatever your consumer choices or wherever you live, you may feel some sense of connection with a very large community who enjoys the activities you enjoy, the shows you watch, the causes you care about, the country you live in, but it would be impossible to be in relationship, to know and have intimate engagement with all the people in this imagined community. I can't know all Americans. I can't know everyone who owns a corgi or all the people who eat a vegan diet. I can't know everyone in the worldwide Unitarian Universalist community. But when I was at a rest stop in Virginia 20 years ago and saw a woman in the restroom wearing a chalice necklace, we rejoiced in finding people in our own tribe. And yesterday, when a person showed up at the dog park with a corgi, I felt this brief sense of connection, and we talked, and from her I learned there is a Georgia Corgis Facebook group, and now I'm in that group and I'm on my way to possibly being part of a local community of corgi owners. So from the large, massive, worldwide corgi ownership, I might be able to find a few intimate connections. Harari goes on to educate the reader in understanding how consumerism and nationalism work extra hours to make us imagine that millions of strangers belong to the same community as ourselves, that we all have a common past, common interests, and a common future. We have seen this at work in the last few years with the rise of nationalism in our country and a separation of the tribes we call Democrats and Republicans. And oh yeah, there are independents and libertarians and politically disengaged, but we might call these outlier tribes in the grand play that we are acting out at this time in our history. These two tribes, Democrats and Republicans, are too large for us to really feel a sense of community. And even within these tribes, there are sub-tribes, people who share similar concerns for specific issues in our society. Someone may have voted the same way you did, but perhaps for very different reasons. You may be a Republican who is horrified by the treasonous acts that took place at the U.S. Capitol this week, or you may be a Republican who thought those were patriotic acts. So Harari's concept of imagined communities is not what I was hoping for. I think what he offers here is the curse of our imagination, that we can imagine we are part of a community of consumers or citizens just doesn't work for me. I'm a little bit of a rebel in this. I fly an Earth flag in the front of my house in a neighborhood where people actually keep track of their neighbors who fly their American flags and whether they have them at half-mast when they're supposed to and out on the proper holidays. My Earth flag flies proudly every day. Because I'm a community, that's my community, right? The huge 7.5 billion people who live on this planet and all the creatures. These imagined communities based on nation states and consumer choices can lead to insurrection and volatile markets. And in this construct, we have imagined how to annihilate each other, to cause great harm to our planet, to separate, divide, and conquer. So much of this concept is determined by the fate of where we are born, or where our families migrated to, or by our means and capacity to participate in the consumption of goods and services. However, there are ways in which this concept of imagined communities can provide seeds for local, intimate communities. True, I can't know all Unitarian Universalists, but I can find my tribe in the local congregation. I may not be able to know everyone in that congregation, but I can enjoy a sense of belonging within that community, if the conditions allow. Now, what are the conditions? This particular congregation, the Unitarian Universalist congregation of Gwinnett, has a bold vision as a radically welcoming sanctuary. Sanctuary, to me, suggests a supportive and protected space. The term radical requires us to get to the root of what it means to be profoundly welcoming. A welcome that goes far beyond friendly and warm. Friendly and warm has good intentions, but can also have consequences of harm far from those intentions. Radical welcome requires deep work to see what we don't see, to discover blind spots that keep us from knowing what we don't know. It requires us to enter into uncomfortable conversations and seek to use our collective imagination as a blessing to uncover our eyes and open our minds. One example of this is the restrooms in our building. They're labeled women and men, and up until about 6 years ago or so, I never imagined that this would not be welcoming, would not be a supportive and protected space, a sanctuary for some people seeking our faith. And then my eyes and heart were opened to the lived experiences of people who are genderqueer and any people for whom the binary of male and female does not describe their experience of gender. When my eyes were opened about safe access to restrooms, I wanted to learn more, and I have very intentionally done so. And I continue to learn, not just about gender identity, but also about the ways in which living in a country that was founded on conquest, genocide, and slavery has shaped my brain, shaped how I approach issues, projects, policies, programs, problem solving, and so much more. With eyes open, I see more clearly why creating intimate communities of care and compassion can be challenging. At the core of such a community, there must be trust. And as Bob discussed in the gossip theory, I think this would apply not just to individuals, but also to the reputation of faith communities. For us, trust is built through covenant, promising that we will work together to create a community in which we can talk about difficult topics, ask hard questions, offer compassion for one another's plight, and seek to understand each other's plight and stay in the conversation. This congregation has taken giant steps in learning and growing in our welcome. We are in the process of renovating those restrooms so they each welcome all people of any gender or non-gender. And they will be ready when our doors open, hopefully this summer. And we could use a little help with this. So if you'd like to assist us in the process of this renovation, please let me know. Yet there is always, always more to learn. And there are always new people coming into our community who will have knowledge that we don't have, or maybe not as much as we have, and need to learn. We recently invested in long-term access to the transgender inclusion in congregations curriculum from the Transforming Hearts Collective. As the groups now engaged with this curriculum complete their conversations in February, we'll open up the registration again, and then again, and again. This is now something that can become a part of our ongoing faith development programs, our ongoing efforts to learn how to be more radically welcoming. Radical welcome encompasses much more than gender, though. Theology, race, ethnicity, class, abilities, education, ecology, and I'm sure there's even more that I have yet to name. I can envision generating a culture of enthusiasm for learning about expanding our welcome. The seeds have already been planted as more people in the congregation embrace this challenge and seek out resources to expand their understanding of radical welcome. So why is the creation and nurture of local intimate communities of care and compassion so terribly important? In a recent edition of Atlantic Magazine, author Charles Yu talks about people's impression that we are living in unimaginable times. Global warming, pandemic, economic instability, fascist ideologies, uprisings for justice and equity. So much feels hard and scary. And I wish I could tell you that turning the page on the calendar would magically return us to normal, whatever that is, normal being another imagining. I agree with Bob that we can expect challenging times for several years to come. Changes in the balance of power in Washington will not make the troubles in our nation magically disappear. It may offer some hope, yet that hope will fall on poisoned soil if we don't do the work to imagine local communities of care and compassion, not just within our walls, because we are doing that pretty well, but beyond. The hope for humanity is for us to imagine the antithesis to the imagined communities of consumers and nations. Our hope needs to be an active hope, generating and nurturing communities that are generous, cooperative, compassionate, that seek to be just, equitable, and inclusive. I don't know exactly how we do this, but I am hoping and trusting that we can all feel touched, moved, and inspired to figure this out together, not just for our current generation, but for generations to come. Please join me in the spirit of prayer in light of all that has transpired this week and the plight of our democracy and humanity in our country and in hotspots around the globe. I offer this prayer for our humanity. Hey, God, are you there? Whatever you are you there? Can I count on you to save us from ourselves? The reply comes in the silence that follows, a resounding no. The silence is deafening. Then it is soothing. Then it comes, inner wisdom, true knowing. It's up to us, each of us, all of us. We have all we need. We've received such precious gifts, the gift of life, this beautiful planet with all its beings, the four-leggeds, two-leggeds, winged ones, crawling ones, slithering ones, standing ones, blooming ones, the mountains, seas, forests, deserts. We have strength, resilience, creativity, curiosity, courage, conscience, compassion, and imagination. We have all the seeds we need to salvage our humanity. What's missing? Is it the collective will, the common purpose, the shared commitment to the common good, an agreed understanding of our plight that's missing? Let us pray that more eyes are opened, more hearts are broken open by the pain and suffering we afflict upon one another, other beings, our planet. Let this be an active prayer, putting our hands and our feet, hearts and heads to the task of waking up, nudging our neighbors, encouraging care and compassion, even with all our differences. Let us wake up to realize that each human is unique and we are fumbling about in this topsy-turvy world, looking for like-minded on our side in our tribe relations, when really we are all so deliciously different and we could be celebrating and embracing and shouting, "That's amazing!" about our shared experiences of beauty, joy, love, loss, grief, heartache, disappointment, discouragement, awe, wonder, and triumph. Let us seek not to be right, but to be kind. Let us choose not to fight, but to unite in our shared humanity. Let us offer our wisdom, generosity, love, and compassion. Let us offer our yearning for connection, wholeness, and sense of purpose. Let us seek to see the seeds of light and love in every heart. Let us offer our hands and our hearts as the balm that can reduce the suffering of other beings. Let us offer our imagination and the vision of radically welcoming communities of care and compassion. And let us begin each day with this prayer and end each day knowing we did what we could to allow humanity to thrive. May it be so. Amen. Now let us sing together, "There is a Balm in Gilead," an African-American spiritual from the slavery period, a song of imagining freedom. Our congregation is clearly committed to creating a more compassionate world. To this end, each quarter we split our plate collection with an organization selected by our Give Away the Plate committee. We begin a new quarter with a new plate recipient. Beyond the Ribbon, a Gwinnett-based organization advocating for support and resources beyond the diagnosis of cancer to educate, inspire hope, cultivate awareness, and empower individuals. Beyond the Ribbon volunteers educate, support, and provide resources to patients and their families, and offer various initiatives to increase community support for people living with cancer. Our plate contributions also support the shared ministry of this congregation, so I ask that you please give generously to support the work of this vital ministry in our wider community, as well as the vision and mission of our congregation. As we listen to a recording of our pianist Brian Bishop playing Pandemonium by Don Reckman, you will see on the screen ways to contribute to our offering via PayPal, Venmo, or by mailing a check payable to UUCG to the address shown. If you are worshiping with us for the first time, your presence here today is a great gift, and we offer that you may choose to let the plate pass, as we are so pleased with your gift of being here. The offering will now be most gratefully received. May the generous gifts we receive this week move us towards realizing our vision of a more connected and compassionate world. I am grateful for Bob Patrick for our collaborative process in creating our service today. I am grateful for Russ Taddeo for running video and sound, and very grateful to Christiane McQueen for managing the Zoom room. And now is the time for our call to connection. Please seek ways to connect between Sundays. One of the things you can do to find ways to get involved, if you're new, please text the word welcoming to this number and provide us with your name and address and phone and email address, and you will receive a few texts, a few emails, one phone call, a gift in the mail, and ways to guide you in connecting. And they only last for a few weeks, so please do that so we can help you to get involved with us and be a part of our community and welcome you more fully. If you want to know about things that are coming up, please subscribe to our weekly e-news that comes out on Fridays. You can send an email to info@uucg.org to sign up for that publication. You can also go to our website and learn lots about us there if you haven't already. And those links for signing up for the e-news and our newsletter are on the website as well. On our website, about midway on the right side, I guess, is a register for events button, and that shows you lots of things that are going on and ways that you can sign up for those. And also we have our public Facebook page that you can take a look at where we post some things also. Now, if you are looking for ways to be of service, we've got a few ideas for you. Every first Sunday, we gather food. We have a gathering at the building. People bring donations for the Lawrenceville Cooperative Ministry. We had over 300 pounds this last time. It was great. Our next collection is on February 7th. Also, we are still needing to collect platelets. Although our dear friend Terry is home, he will be going back in for some more treatments and will need more platelets. So if you are eligible to donate platelets and have a few hours a month to do that, please do so. And on the 23rd, Harry Felice, who's our grounds guy, really could use a lot of help. This is supposed to be one of those ways to connect too. Getting a lot of people together with masks, with distance, to work on getting our place, keeping our place looking nice and having it look extra special nice by the time we come back together. So our building is being used by the school, and we really want it to look good as people bring their kids there and pick them up and drop them off and so forth. So please come and offer your enthusiasm for the stewardship of our property. This afternoon at 3:30, you can attend an event hosted by the Gwinnett Interfaith Alliance, which several people in our congregation are involved with. This event is recognizing our common humanity, spiritual healing in a time of pandemic. Several clergy from different faith groups will be speaking on the importance of recognizing our common humanity and spiritual healing during this time of pandemic, especially during this time of pandemic. A few ways to get connected this week. Belief Exploration is today at 12:30. Our Gwinnett Understanding Secular Truth groups meets tomorrow at 7 p.m. On Saturday evening, Justin Miller, who is now a certified death doula, is offering a workshop called Death Cafe, which is a popular workshop that there's lots of them out and about around the world. That'll be Saturday at 6. Also, we're doing a new religious exploration program this month. It's called UU Lego Sources, exploring our UU wisdom sources and creating a corresponding Lego build. So if you have elementary school age children and have not yet registered for our religious exploration program, please consider doing so. All our programs for children require registration in order to gain access as a measure of security. They meet on Zoom at usually at 12:30. This being the second Sunday, the registered families receive resources to do RE at home during the week. We also on Sunday mornings at 10 o'clock offer a faith development program that's best suited for adults and teens. And this month we'll be discussing our theme and having conversations and activities related to imagination. Covenant group registration is open. This is an opportunity to gather twice a month with a small group of people to go deeper into our monthly themes. The first group starts on January 25th, so I urge you to register this week so we can ensure that we have enough people to fill each group and to lead each group. There are several opportunities during the week to connect. Some I've already discussed, but our Covenant Choir, if you like to sing, come and join us. We are gathering on Tuesdays. You can also sign up for that on the Register for Events or just come. Our Yarns from the Heart group, our knitters, crocheters, quilters, whatever, all those fiber activities meet on the first and third Wednesdays. Courageous Coffee House was happy hour. Now it's Courageous Coffee House. Thursdays from 6 to 8. Come and be courageous with your decaf because it's at night, right? Or bring whatever beverage you like. Women's Spirituality is on second Fridays, and Exploring Tarot with Sherry is at 4 o'clock on Sundays. If you would like to order some coffee, cocoa, or chocolate from our Equal Exchange supply, please text EQUAL to that phone number on the screen. And if you shop with Amazon, we would like you to designate Unitarian Universalist Congregation of Gwinnett as your Amazon Smiles designate to receive. We get a little money from that. It's very nice. Let's rise in spirit as we say together the words we say as we extinguish our chalice, followed by our closing song, Let It Be a Dance by Rick Maston. We extinguish this flame, but not the light of truth, the warmth of community, or the fire of commitment. These we carry in our hearts until we are together again. bad times too. Let it be a dance. Morning star comes out at night. Without the darkness, the light. If nothing's wrong, then nothing's right. Let it be a dance. Let it be a dance. Let it be a dance. Let the sunshine, let it rain. Share the laughter, bear the pain. And round we go again. Let it be a dance. I muted my mic so I could sing energetically too. Our service has ended, and now our service to one another and our wider communities begins. Be well, beloveds. Please continue to take very, very good precautions during this pandemic as this virus continues to spread and escalate. You are each so precious. See you next week.